Hello everyone, thank you very much for joining us in this new video of ours where we're continuing our considerations about possible impasses. When we are striving, when we're following a path of self-care. One of them is that, in this chapter of self-care, we have psychological well-being. So things that can interfere with our psychological well-being can interfere with our wellness as a whole. One of them is literalness, which means taking things in a literal way. That's very known, that's very largely happens, largely known to translators. So sometimes things like the literal translation of this text into English makes it sound, makes the prose, results in a prose that sounds not unrealistic. So that's very common to happen, very easy to happen with translators. And the translator has to be very well skilled in both languages. It's not just, I have a course, oh yeah, I can speak. Well, you can speak, but then you have the sufficient mastery of the both languages to be able to catch all the nuances, including the artistic, the literary books like Dostoevsky, Kafka, Guimarães Rosa, Machado de Assis. To translate these guys, you have to have a very, very, very good, very solid experience with both languages. That's why I don't envy translators. I really don't. Traduttore e traditore. It's an Italian saying that means translators are traitors. Probably an Italian wrote that one. But it's not that deep. It's simply the fact that sometimes things are to be taken literally and sometimes things are to be taken metaphorically. And there's a lot of art in being able to realize when it's one thing, when it's another. That's one of the bases of emotional intelligence. And that's one of the things that can show up when you're evaluating, when you work with the theory of mind. The capacity to realize when something is to be taken literally, when something is to be taken metaphorically, illustratively, parabolically, as you wish. Anyway, when we are dealing, when we come to literary and to communication theories, then we have this wonderful story that Umberto Eco brings to us in his book The Limits of Interpretation, where he tells the story of someone in Southern Asia who has maybe a Native American, maybe the start of European expansion, and he had this slave, this worker that was with him, and this guy would be given a basket with fruit, say 15 apples or 15 peaches. I think the example talked about peaches. Take 15 peaches. The guy would pick the peach and he'd start going to the deliverance address. He'd go hungry. Or the peaches were very nice. He'd eat one. When he got to the place, there was this, he handed the little paper where it was written 15 peaches. The receiver counted 14 peaches. So he got spanked. There was a peach missing. And he kind of got angry about that. How did they know he had eaten a peach? He couldn't read. He wasn't acquainted with the idea of reading. It didn't pass through his mind that something could be written. So another day, he got another lot of peaches, and this time he picked a piece of paper because he saw the landlord looked at the piece of paper and realized there was a peach short. So this time he picked a piece of paper and he put it hidden so the paper couldn't see him eating the peach. And he ate another peach. He got himself another spanking. And the mystery remained. So this is an example of the idea of literality, literalness. Why? Because the slave was unable to know, he wasn't aware of the fact that it was possible to communicate by writing, and that what was on that little piece of paper was just a sign, a visual sign, which gave information, bad information. And that's how he couldn't master the trick. I know something else happened. He did something else, and then things got unfeasible. But anyway, this is, sometimes it sounds funny when you see a naive native unable to decipher written language. But we do something very similar with ourselves. We can also understand that words have power in themselves to recruit us. We heed the voice, if you like, the voice of words. That is not always healthy. It can be suffocating. It can be hindering. So, what we must understand is that not always, it isn't always that words mean what they mean. It isn't always people mean what they mean. Because we are basically, as we saw in the previous video, we are basically eccentric to what we perceive, to what we realize on ourselves, what we imagine of ourselves. That's why mindfulness is so important, because you can perceive yourself in a place where words, language does not have an interference. One thinker in the 20th century which dedicated time to this understanding was Charles Peirce. Some people say Peirce. Be my guest. But these talks, both the example given by Umberto Eco and the experience of the semiotics expressed and developed by Charles Peirce, both refer to external objects. They both refer to things that can be checked. So I say, a pen. For outer objects, like a pen, I can show you this. You won't say this is a bucket. You won't say this is a guitar. You know it's a pen. Now, I say the word pen. Automatically, you think of something like this. Not this pen specifically, maybe. Now I showed it, so maybe you would imagine this one. But then you have hundreds of different experiences with pens. Anyway, you know you're talking about a specific class of object. If you like, a specific, the noun expressing a specific kind of state of world, as Umberto Eco says. Now, when you're dealing with your emotions, and it is different. When you're talking about your inner experience, it's different. When you're talking about your personal memories, it's different. So, when we practice and undergo any other kind of skillful means of dealing with our subjectivity, be it mindfulness, meditation, be it some other contemplative practice, or be it good literature, whatever, it is extremely important that you understand that approaching oneself, better put, demands a kind of epistemics, demands a kind of scenario which literalness gets in the way. It will be more a fluctuating mode of perception than a literal one. And I'm not talking about lack of attention, lack of attentiveness. You're being attentive as you are attentive to the ocean when you see those waves coming up and down. That is not a fluctuation of your attention. It is not a fluctuation of your intention. It is not a fluctuation of your devotion to what you're doing. It is the perception of our cyclic, our up and down, left and right, high, low nature. We cycle. What's the point there? Are we going to be static? Usually, with life beings, being static equals being dead. Now you're walking in the woods and you see this motionless toad. You pick up a little stick and you poke him. He doesn't move. You say, this toad is dead. Of course, if he has his belly up, then you're absolutely sure he is dead. But I'm saying that you see a plant which has stopped its photosynthetic processes, it starts flopping. There is no statics within life. So you will never be static. So have this is the next video we'll be going into futurely. But then this literacy, this literalness, does not stand for constancy. Stability is not constancy. Stability is more about equilibrium, about balance than statics, than something that is stopped. This literalness also can be dangerous when we pay too much attention to other people's voices, or we pay too much attention to our own inner voices. We might get ourselves tangled up. So the idea of being present and non-judgmental and acceptive, receptive to whatever I can sense within me is the basis of not being literal and of not allowing external, or if you like, a knowledge that it was not born within me individually, and it refers to my inner state. Then we can find a huge amount of liberty and a very good way of dealing with our present moment, with our presence. Thank you very much for joining us. See you in our next video. Bye.